I feel reassured. I feel very confident about the future of democracy in Nigeria. I was, and all of us in that hall were completely pleasantly surprised at the humility of the president to offer an apology, something we least expected from any government, least of all from the one that was not responsible for this mistake. We also felt very, very relieved that the awards had been done and in a manner that they were done, the families accepted, unlike in the past where such awards were discounted by those who were to be beneficiaries. So I feel very elated that the efforts of the campaign organization and so many other people within the party, outside the party, that stood up for June 12th.
Well, Senator Zwinkina, you know, I want you to recall what happened. You know, I'd like to know what went through you when you learned that that election has been annulled. This is just a day after, like as we recognize.
Well, I would say that we were first very shocked, and then from shock to disbelief, because then maybe this could be a mistake, maybe some spoilers are somewhere sending the wrong tunes, and then the reason we were in shock was that the results were all before us. Collation had taken place at the polling unit, at the ward, and at the local government collation centers, and even at the state centers. The state electoral commissioners were in Abuja with their various results clutched on their chest to present them to the chief electoral officer, Professor Humphrey, also to just table them on the board. He had tabled 14, 16 to go. So it's not as if we were waiting for results. We already had received the results. And from our collation in my office, we discovered we were comfortable that Bashir M. Abiola had 8.2 million votes, and Alhaji Tofa had 5.8 million votes, and that we were leading with 2.2 million votes, and that we had 1/3 of the votes in 28 states. The law required us to have 1/3 of the votes in 20 states. But here we were with 1/3 of the votes in 28 states in an election that was peaceful, orderly, non-controversial. So it was a shock indeed that someone would annul it, especially when nobody is new on the scene. The president was not new, everybody was not new, the candidates were not new. So what could have happened? Of course, there are so many reasons adduced from various quarters, but the initial reaction was really that of shock, disbelief, and then we felt, oh, maybe this is a mistake, will be righted later, or will be corrected later, and that didn't happen.
I'm wondering, before we bring in Joe Dumakin, just still going down memory lane, was there any indication that this might happen? I'm asking this question because if you recall, there was the so-called Association for Better Nigeria that had obtained an injunction to stop the presidential election. Did that give you any sense, you know, that perhaps there might be trouble ahead?
Well, we saw that and witnessed that injunction, but you will also recall that there were other injunctions in the past, and the law itself said that no court can stop the election. So we were confident that despite the injunction by ABN, that was not going to affect the release of the results at that stage or at any other stage, because the law itself had an inbuilt provision that no court can stop an election. And that has been going on. Even now, INEC today has a similar provision in its law. So if you have such a law strengthened by such provisions, you would not be worried about filing of a suit by any association challenging that. Now, as a DG of the campaign, I had some feelers that something may be wrong, especially when we came to Abuja with my principal, lodged at Sheraton Hotel, and late Chief Abiola wanted to reach out to the president, the then president, and sent in the normal message through our normal contact person.
A while ago on the screen. Tell us, I mean, we can see your T-shirt, what is emblazoned on it. We've had that.
Empower, then it was NEC, now it's INEC. It's going to empower INEC to declare the results. The results are already there. It's been penciled down. And we first talked about gazetting of the June 12th election result. But the National Assembly will now do do the needful. And I also see the gesture of the National Assembly. No one will ever want to swim against the tide. The tide now that is that the president has set the pace, has recognized June 12th as a democracy day. Now the National Assembly, through the law, will empower the INEC to formally release the result. As soon as the result is formally released, MK Abiola will now be formally declared as the winner. He will no longer be the presumed winner. Again, the National Holiday Act will be looked into, because I'm not an holiday person, but I feel that May 29 was then Democracy Day, and then we have National Holiday. Although June 12th, all southwestern states have always been declaring June 12th a public holiday, and when Governor Jules Okalo was also in power, he declared public holiday in Abia in the east. So with the National Holiday Act, May 29 will now be expunged. But that again does not have to say that the handover date will not be May 29. But our own Democracy Day will now become June 12. It will become holiday, so that all around the federation, people will have that through the holiday mood. People will come out either through rallies, either through symposium, through gatherings, in order for them to draw the lessons of June 12. When we draw the lessons of June 12, then we will not be able to repeat the mistakes of the past. Again, the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, honestly, is not to witch hunt. But if we have to right the wrong, then we need to know what happened. Because all the while, when MK Abiola was in detention, I've had to also nurse the gunshot wound I had on my left leg. And when I remember more than 300 people that died, each time I go into Abiola's residence, I see Abiola's graveside, Elijah Kudira's graveside. I still believe that I should not say good night to them. I still believe that justice has not been done. So when there's a Judicial Commission of Inquiry, we even know what happened. Why was MK Abiola liquidated? Like President Muhammadu Buhari said, so that this thing will never happen again. If we want to say never again, we have to learn from our past mistakes. MK Abiola paid with his only life. The only life he had to live, he paid the supreme price. We need to know what happened, so that at the end, those who need to even apologize to us, those who need to tell us, Nigerians, this will never happen again, then it will serve as a shooting bomb. If we don't redress the path, there's no way we can move forward. So those are the things that needs to be put in place at the level of the judicial angle. A commission of inquiry, a Judicial Commission of Inquiry should be put in place. The National Assembly will also help empower the INEC. Let these results be declared, and then immediately it's declared now, we'll have the posthumous recognition of MK Abiola as a past president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe Dumake, for the many points that you have raised. We have a second topic to discuss today. Before I bring in Senator Jonathan Zigwina, Kirian, there are a number of points that Joe has raised from our Lagos Network Center. She keeps talking about a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. If you recall, earlier in the week, when we were discussing with some guests on the program, when the president announced that June 12 was not going to be the national holiday, as well as the investiture of MK Abiola, one of the guests, a former senator himself, did say that perhaps what would be required would be, for the president, to issue an executive order on sealing whatever secret documents there were relating to the meetings that were held around the AFRC or NSDC, as it was called at the time, over the June 12 election.
They actually took the decision to annul the election.
Now, a Judicial Commission of Inquiry will have its own challenges. If you recall the Supreme Court decision with regard to the Oputa panel, that should be a guide. Now, if Abiola becomes president, then and then you have his portraits all over, perhaps a caption would be President MK Abiola, winner of June 12 election.
But I think we should ask Senator Zigwina to comment on this. You listened to Odumake in Lagos.
Yes.
Do you share some of the points that she raised, with respect to going further, to see how June 12 to see how June 12 will be finally buried, so to speak?
Yes, of course. I do share her views, I share her proposition, and I think it will be in order to do all of that. Beyond that as well, there are other people that suffered in the hands of the military at that time, like Kudirat Abiola. At least we believe that in addition to the proposal by Dr. Dumakai, Kudirat Abiola would need an honor. There are other people that would also need an honor. And we also believe that some national monuments should also, as in the practice with other former heads of states whose streets are named after, both in Abuja, in Lagos, and in other capitals, that should also be done. We had suggested while in the Senate that the National Stadium should also be named after him because he was also a sport enthusiast and promoter, and similar other things. I do agree with her that these proposals are necessary to formally bring to a closure those aspects. But the most important closure we can bring is to completely avoid impunity in our political system. That votes cast for a candidate will not count. That must be eliminated from our lexicon, eliminated from our political practice, eliminated from our possible options in our democracy. And we should use the return of the validation of June 12 to send a final message that wherever there are elections, the sanctity of the votes of the people must always be respected. So I think we must rise from this occasion of the June 12 error, never to commit such error again.
All right, Senator Zugina, a part of the allure, and if you like, part of what drove the June 12 spirit was the fact that the June 12 election was often referred to as being free, fair, and peaceful. And of course, it was a pan-Nigeria vote from what we saw in terms of the results that had already been declared and the results that had not been announced. You were Director General of the Abiola Campaign Organization. What was the magic?
Well, I would say that the magic was the transparency of option A4. And what was this option A4? It was that if you sought leadership at the national level, you first go to your primary roots. You started from your ward. So whoever wanted to be president was free. So we could have 774 presidential candidates. Go to your ward. From there, people will queue up. You could turn back and see whether you are winning or not winning. And everybody will see the same. Some people had done that, turned back and saw their wives in a different queue, saw their uncles in a different queue. And that was the freedom of it. And then the winners will now come to the local government. They'll be trimmed down. From there to the state. And that was why in Jos, we ended up with about 27 presidential aspirants because the trimming had been done at the state level. And nobody petitioned. Nobody complained because the system was free and fair. That was the transparency of the internal process of the political parties. And I have always maintained, if we want a very credible and transparent electoral system, it must start from the political party. Because in a democracy such as ours, the electorate is locked in by whoever the party brings. And so if the party emerges with a non-credible candidate produced by non-transparent processes, then complaints begin. People are even waiting for any mistake to go to court. But there was nobody waiting for a mistake to go to court in June 12. And so it was free and fair. And we had an electoral umpire that was really also very, very committed and transparent. Professor Humphrey also did his best because he really made sure that the process was open and that every time we were all available to see what he was doing or not doing. And so we should also commend what he did. It was not an election that anybody, you could see even the ABN, the way they came in, they did not fault the process of INEC. They just simply said they had complaints and the complaints were ephemeral, really. So the process was transparent. That was the secret of the peaceful and of the free and fair process of that election.
And the many Nigerians actually wondered what happened, in the years after June 12 election, while option A4 was actually dropped. Some say it's a crude method that Nigeria cannot be going back instead of moving forward and all of that. But it's also not really interesting that after that, Nigeria had gone through difficult election processes, that has produced many court cases and all of that. Now, let's return to Lagos now and ask Dr. Dumake whether the action of government yesterday would rekindle hope of Nigerians on the sustenance of our democracy. This should also be part of your final thoughts on this conversation.
Well, the action by the federal government, we rekindle hope. But I think that the most important thing for us as citizens is that as citizens, we must ensure that we change our mindset, because the spirit of June 12th is in free and fair election. And the befitting memorial again that can be given to MKO Abiola is for us to make sure that we entrench that spirit of free, fair, credible elections. I don't want us again to ballot with our blood. We see what elections, different elections, we keep killing ourselves. The person that is killed might have been the best president. So we should also ensure that in as much as we are talking about healing, and the past election talks about unity, there must be unity of purpose. And unity of purpose can also be derived from restructuring of Nigeria. Again, we have seen that Nigeria put aside their primordial interest because MK Abiola defeated Tofa in Kano. We had a Muslim ticket. So there should, instead of us to be going a step further, we should galvanize, let there be more unity. Government should help in creating an enabling environment for us to have free and fair election. And citizens, let citizens agonize less and organize more. Get their permanent voters card and be ready to have a free and fair election. Also ensure that June 12th, that is about mandate protection, ballot integrity, free choice. We ensure that those three things I've mentioned, we galvanize around such so that there will be a replica of June 12th election results. And I know that the citizens of our country will always move from heights to heights. I'm an incurable optimist. I'm so optimistic that from the lesson of June 12th, which was about resolving national question, which was about unity, that if all of us galvanize, we'll be able to move forward as a country. And I agree with the DG of Abiola's campaign that there are lots and lots of people who lay down their lives. Kudirat Abiola, Alfred Rewani, so many people, Bekoranson Kuti, Aloaka Bashorun, several others. What of those who had their legs cut off, those who were shot and those who were killed? At the end, we are going to have heroes and heroines of our June 12th struggle. And I'm sure that if we learn the lessons of June 12th, we say never again will anyone erode our democratic values in this country.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe Dumakin from our Lagos Network Center. Let's quickly take the tweets that we have. These are reactions from our viewers who have sent in their tweets using the Twitter handle you can see at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen at NTA GMM. Mike Ayanko has this first tweet. June 12 will ever remain a watershed in the annals of Nigeria's history. Kudos to President Muhammadu Buhari for honoring the date and the principal participants. Presidential candidate Tofa should also be honored. Now, the highest respect for all of us is to deepen our democracy, avoid rigging, and love one another.
All right. From Festus Akimboewa, President Muhammadu Buhari has done excellently well to apologize to MKO Abiola's family, but he should have apologized on behalf of the military who annulled the election and not Nigerians.
All right, it was just a section of the military, not all the military officers. By the way.
The senior officers.
Yeah, well, there were some of the officers. There were also June 12 generals, if you remember. There were branded June 12 generals. Then Jack Solomon has this tweet. The conferment of national awards on the martyr and the declaration of June 12 as Nigeria's Democracy Day by the Buhari administration has united Nigerians and renewed our hope in the country, as well as faith and confidence in ourselves for continued growth, development, and progress. Take it or leave it. President Buhari will be remembered for this benevolent act of righting an age-long wrong and crime against humanity. We implore the government to also do something for the June 12 protagonists, dead or alive.
All right, and from Professor Ajani Olaoluwa, he said the federal government got this one right by honoring MKO. But the herdsmen unabated killings, economic quagmire, unemployment, education, and climate change issues should also be tackled to really appreciate the significance of June 12. He's trying to add value That is a value addition to June 12.
Value chain of June 12. Victor Oyoswama tweets, now the apology of President Muhammadu Buhari to the late MKO Abiola's family and others was the high point of yesterday's event. We should also imbibe the lessons of June 12, which include free and fair elections, less emphasis on ethnicity and religious differences. Restructuring is next.
All right, Chris Onwugamba, Abiola cannot be designated as a past president of Nigeria. That would be unconstitutional. He was never inaugurated and never took oath of office.
Festus Akimboyewa, this last one, we must not forget that it is the citizens that make June 12 legitimate through their participation in the election. Those are the tweets that we take. Senator Zugina, we're going to sign by you two off now, but both of you are. But very briefly, what is your message to fair weather politicians?
Well, fair weather politicians, I would say maybe politicians who are opportunistic, politicians who do not take the enterprise of representing the people very seriously. And the advice will be that that should cease. And the only way we can cease fair weather politics is to make politics principled and philosophically based, and that all the parties, we are probably very new in the party formation system. And as the process goes on, philosophical distinctions will emerge between party A and B, which are right now not really very clear. Because right now, if you look at the constitutions, you will find that most of the parties have various the same organs. They have BOTs, they have NECs, they have state chapters, ward chapters, and virtually the same provisions. One would say politically that because Nigeria is at this stage of development, we are at the stage of providing basic needs, and the basic needs of citizens are practically the same. And that's why the parties keep repeating the basic needs: roads, water, this. The philosophical distinctions are the philosophical distinctions usually come at areas of the process of achieving the basic needs. Not that you state that you have basic needs, but these processes, once they are established and the parties are particularly serious about deepening what makes them different from the others, then we are going to have serious politics played by serious politicians.
All right, sir. We are pressed for time for now. Otherwise, I would have asked you to let us know whether it's important or necessary for us to have professional politicians in Nigeria, as those whose business is politics. All right, at this point, I'd like to thank Dr. Joe Odumake, human rights activist who contributed from our Lagos Network Center. Thank you indeed for being part of our show this morning.
Pleasure always.
And of course, Senator Jonathan Zwingina, former Director General of Hope 93, that's MKO's campaign organization. We thank you for your insight this morning on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, now this is Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for staying with us up to this moment. We'll now take a break, and when we come back, we'll enter into the second leg of our conversation today.
The NTA Television College Jos admission forms for diploma program in film and television production, television engineering technology, broadcast journalism, and degree programs in mass communication, television journalism, and mass communication television production is now on sale. The sale of forms will commence 14th May and run to 13th August 2018 at the cost of 7,500 Naira only per form, payable through the remitter platform in favor of NTA Television College Jos. Forms can be obtained from all marketing offices in NTA State Capital Stations, zonal centers, Training Directorate of the NTA Headquarters Abuja, and the Office of the Academic Secretary of the NTA Television College. Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE, SSCE in relevant areas of study, including English and mathematics, in not more than 2 sittings. All completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before the 13th of August 2018 to the stations where the forms were obtained. For further inquiries, please contact the Office of the Academic Secretary on these numbers. Announcer, Registrar.
Dettol team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs which are everywhere. You collect germs that cause diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands and taking your bath with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath, bath, bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights.
Come do on yourself now.
Now wow. Oh boy, calm down now. Oga Kasali electrician who would they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder and come off.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
My name is Vincent Ikechukwu Ezenwa, Super Eagles goalkeeper, and I play for Eyimba FC of Aba. And presently today, I'm one of the invitees of the Super Eagles that are going for Russia 2018 World Cup. And I think with the experience I've gathered up to date, I think it has given me a good confidence to go out there and represent my beloved country. So I believe in myself, and when you've set a goal for yourself, you just have to work hard. And I believe in every game I play, I always want to do my best because I know where I'm pursuing. And today now I'm in Super Eagles. This is what I've wished myself, to represent this great country one day when I started this job, being a goalkeeper. And I think it has paved the way for me, and I keep doing my best. This is every player's dream, playing the World Cup. And seeing myself, by the grace of God, going there to represent 180 to 190 million Nigeria, I think is a huge honor for me. And I believe I have to take this as something that I will never forget in my career, for me to represent this country in the world stage. One thing Nigeria should be expecting from me is I will always go there to do his team, just like the way when the opportunity came for me to represent this country against Cameroon. I did all my best, and I believe that same thing that I've been doing that make the country to always believe and count on me. If I've been given the opportunity to play, I believe I'm going to do my best for my beloved country, Nigeria, and I know I'm not going to let Nigeria down.
You're welcome back, and now we are getting on to our second topic for conversation this morning, which is on the financial autonomy granted now to state judiciary as well as state houses of assembly. But before we bring in our guest, let's take this background report by our correspondent, Victor Azu.
For a long time, governors received federal allocation on behalf of all arms of government in their states and disbursed as they would. With this financial leverage, most state governments controlled other arms of government by either holding on to their allocations or not giving them the full complement. But that is about to become a thing of the past with the recent signing into law by President Muhammadu Buhari of the Fourth Alteration Bill that grants financial autonomy to state judiciaries and state houses of assembly. The implication of this is that upon Mr. President's assent, amounts due to houses of assembly of the respective states and their judiciaries are now to be received directly by them from the consolidated revenue without recourse to their state governors.
Upon this signature, the amount standing to the credit of the judiciary are to be paid directly to the judiciary of those states, no more through the governor and no more from the governors. and then the amounts standing to the credit of the Houses of Assembly of the respective states are now to be paid directly to the Houses of Assembly of that state for the benefit of the legislators and the management of the state Houses of Assembly. This grants full autonomy now to the judiciary at the state level and the Houses of Assembly.
It's a very good step in the right direction. Now it will reduce this undue interference in judicial system by the executive, and the common man can have his or her matters easily dispensed with in the court.
This signifies the fact that our constitution, as presently constituted, is capable of allowing positive reforms, to take place that will meaningfully impact across all layers of the society.
Beyond the financial freedom that will come with this new law, what are the wider implications of the development? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will evaluate those shortly.
And joining us now in the studio is Right Honorable David Yohemba, former Speaker, Benue State House of Assembly. In fact, he has won so many caps. He was also senior magistrate with the Benue State Judiciary, former national legal advisor, and the deputy national secretary of the PDP, and is now in a legal practice. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
And from our Just Studio, we also have Honorable Timothy Golu of the House of Representatives. He is representing Panshin Kanke Kanem Federal Constituency of Plateau State. You are welcome to the program, Honorable Golu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kieran, and good morning, Nigeria.
And from our Enugu Network Center, we have a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria joining us today. Professor Reyes Achara teaches constitutional law among other law courses. Professor Reyes Achara, pleasure to have you on the program today.
Same here, same here.
Let's begin the conversation straight away with Right Honorable David Yohemba. You've won a number of caps, as my colleague Kieran indicated, both at the bench, lower bench, senior magistrates, so you have an idea with the judiciary, and also been
shown independently. The two-chamber nature of the federal legislature and the largeness of the size, we have 360 of additional.
Some will feel like any other offers. You have to be very, very careful. Chief judges
he seems to be too legalistic about the issues. Yes, the need for accountability should always be there, but let first thing be done first. Let them be free first. Once they are free, they can now come to sit down and decide on what should be done. This time around, it is not the governor. Let me tell you, sometimes it is even the governors that will even bring through the budget office for oversight for
last hope of the common man.
Now, it is the best that is going.
Do we have the